So when you make a hypothesis statement, there's a null hypothesis, which we usually symbolize with H sub 0, and there is an alternative hypothesis. Sometimes it's H sub 1 or H sub A. Either one of these, they're sometimes used. Some books use this, some books use this. Okay, so the null hypothesis is like the no effect hypothesis. It's like the status quo. It means like nothing interesting is happening here. So the null hypothesis is usually that some population mean is equal to some value that we'd expect it to be. And then we'll test it against the alternative that the mean has risen and is now statistically significantly above 100. Okay, so the null and alternative hypotheses are right there. So when we write the alternative hypothesis, we never use this symbol underneath, because that means that the population mean could be equal to 100. That's the same as the null hypothesis, that nothing's changed. It has to have just the greater than or the less than symbol. This is out because it has that line underneath. This is out because the alternative hypothesis is the one where it does not equal the original mean. And this is out for the same reason. Okay, so two students are getting that one wrong recently. What is a null hypothesis? So I just gave you kind of an English definition. The first option is a hypothesis that proves to be wrong. No, sometimes you can reject a hypothesis and sometimes you fail to reject the null hypothesis. So it's not always wrong. The hypothesis that has a small p-value, then that's a pretty confusing statement for several reasons, because that's not what a p-value means too. So this one's straight out, and the reason is because it's not a hypothesis that has a particular p-value. You can have a p-value that's large or small depending on your null hypothesis. So that's out as well. The correct hypothesis, sometimes it's the one we want to side with, and sometimes it isn't. It isn't always quote unquote the correct hypothesis. The hypothesis that can be rejected, that's correct. We want to either reject the status quo and say something is statistically significantly different, or we want to say we can't reject the status quo. We can't say that we have enough evidence to reject it. Hypothesis testing is the incorrect answer. Test claims about population data. That it does, right? That's the whole point of statistics, is we can't go ask everybody, or we can't find out everyone's blood pressure. So instead, we gather 100 blood pressures and then we estimate the population data. So that's true about hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing, we do use sample data to help us make a claim about the population. Test claims about the sample data. No, hypothesis testing is testing claims about the population data. We just use the sample to estimate it. So the sample data we don't say we reject the hypothesis about the sample data. The hypothesis statements and the decisions we make are always about the population at large, not about the people we know about, because we already know everything there is to know about the sample data. Infers conclusions about a population? Yes, that's true. We want to infer conclusions. So which one is wrong? This is the incorrect answer.